Welcome in to A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Monday night. I hope everybody's week got off to a good start. I hope you've been enjoying all the circus acts that have come with the University of Tennessee and their coaching search as we are still in the midst of the Vols looking for Jeremy Pruitt's replacement. I have some thoughts on how Danny White has gone about this situation in a way that makes me feel, even though there is such a small sample size and only a week worth of interaction with new AD Danny White, I think there is very one specific reason to believe that he is a clear and obvious upgrade over Phil Fulmer. We'll talk about that tonight. I'll have you guys rank where would you have these potential head coaches who could replace Jeremy Pruitt, who will replace Jeremy Pruitt. NORAD couldn't track a plane better, says John Visser. Yeah, the plane is on there, and we'll get to the volunteer plane watch that we have discussed. Matthew Hewitt says he is the man for the job. Before we get to all of the Vols talk, because it's been dominating the internet in a way that is clear and obvious to everyone, you guys need to, in a way that is clear and obvious to everyone, share this show around. No matter whether you view with us on Facebook Live, Twitch TV, YouTube, or Periscope, I need you guys to share this show. If you view with us on Periscope, you can retweet the show using those three little dots in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. They allow you to get your Periscope people, your Twitter people involved. YouTube, we invite you to share the show. Twitch TV, tell your friends if they're streaming with us. Facebook Live, you go in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. You share now to public. That's how you get the people going on Facebook Live. Share now to public. We'd be happy to have your Facebook friends' involvement because I know they want to talk about the Tennessee Volunteers. And now that more of you are here, we can start the show officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Monday. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by our friends at Two Rivers Ford. Big Volunteer fans, big fans of Middle Tennessee, a name you know in the Middle Tennessee community for nearly 40 years out in Mount Juliet at the dealership or online at tworiversford.com. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com will get you your dream address without the stress, just as you see on my mini billboard. You see those billboards all over town, you know that you want to work with the official real estate agent of the Titans, Preds, Nashville SC, and A to Z Sports Prime Time at GaryAshton.com. Brymac Mechanical is where you go for satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. That's BRYMAK, Brymac.com. They'll hook you up. Just as Danny White has been trying to hook you up with a new head coach. They have been out and they have been diligent over the last week plus in looking for the replacement for Jeremy Pruitt. Now, it's not an easy job to fill, right? Claiborne Eric on Periscope says, heard somewhere today that UT committed over 50 violations. How the hell did Fulmer let this go on? Well, Eric, I mean, here's the thing, because I'm not gonna sit here and rip up Phil Fulmer for no reason. In fact, I'm not going to rip him up much at all. I'm just going to point out some reasons why I think Danny White is a clear and obvious upgrade for one specific reason more than anything else. What you're saying there about hearing somewhere that you got to, Eric, if you're going to lob stuff out like that into the ether, one, I need to know where you heard it. Two, I need you to be more specific, because right now that's just reckless speculation and not something that I have the ability to fact check in real time. And also, I didn't hear that anywhere else, Eric. So if you're gonna say stuff like that, I need you to be more specific. Don't worry, Buck. You ain't got to rip on him, says the Josh Booten. We will. Well, listen. Here's what I don't want to happen, because I understand why so many of you respect Phil Fulmer for who he is. Fulmer was garbage as soon as I say that, says FNC White on Periscope. You guys are pissed at him, and rightfully so, right? He's a big reason that your program is going to be in the shitter for the next couple of years, and he's going to be paid, $1 million plus, $37,000 and $37,500 every month for the next 3 years while he's under contract. He got paid. Jeremy Pruitt didn't. But what we are here to talk about tonight is where you think Danny White is an obvious upgrade over Phil Fulmer, because I have one area, one reason why I believe him to be substantially better. So I want to know your Two Rivers Ford take here on a Monday night. How much do you trust Danny White on a scale of 1 to 10 to make the right decision for the Vols head coach? Let me know on Facebook Live, on YouTube, on Twitch TV, on Periscope. We would be happy to have your participation. Let us know in the comments section, and we will talk about it together. CVol65 says a 10. He's competent and proven, according to Steve2J. He is a real AD. David Scalett says. Forgive me, David. I don't want to mispronounce your name. Kevin Griffith is at a 9. Daniel C. Campbell and John Visser both at 7s. Evan C. White says Danny White is an upgrade in every single aspect. I trust him on an 8.5, 9, or between an 8.5, 9 out of 10. As a Vols fan, says Matthew Hewitt, we have to stop this VFL for every position. It ain't working. Danny White gets a 10. Well, here's kind of what I think, right? Like I'm not willing to go all in the way that you guys seem so ready to go all in. Like I'm kind of looking at this from as an objective as humanly possible, right? Like this, and what ultimately is going to make the difference for me is how Danny White has handled this coaching search differently in a way that Philip Fulmer, it doesn't seem to me that he's capable of. And I understand why you guys are so optimistic. You have reason to be. This is somebody who I believe it was Stephen Gottfried who put out on Twitter, Tennessee just hired the right, I don't know if he said the right kind of asshole, the right kind of jerk. Like he said something that was a little bit of a shot at Danny White, but he said he's the right kind of jerk, for lack of a better term. Why does everyone hate PJ Fleck? Guy has built 2 programs, says CVol L65, because he's got a lot of Butch Jones to him. Like I think there's a lot of that. His family Sunday dinner could allow him to bounce candidates against other proven ADs. What do you mean doubtful, says Mike? Well, I'm not doubting all of the things. Like it's too early for me to doubt, right? But like I'm doubtful of the sheer and unbridled optimism that I see coming from Vols fans, right? Right out of the gate, everybody's telling you what a good job Danny White is going to do, why he's the right guy for the job, why he's an unconventional guy, and how the administration did right in going out and paying big money for an athletic director who has done it, but at a much smaller scale, right? UCF is not the University of Tennessee. But I'm optimistic for one clear and obvious reason. You'll hear actually from Danny White here in just a second. And I'll tell you why I'm low on the confidence scale, but it's not an indictment of Danny White. It's just about, learning from past behavior, which is something that we don't seem to do well here in the state of Tennessee. But we'll talk about it together. You'll hear from Danny White at his introductory press conference in just a second, right after I tell you about our friends at Two Rivers Ford. Non-commissioned sales staff, non-commissioned sales staff, non-commissioned sales staff. That's why you go and trust Two Rivers Ford with your business or your potential business. They want to show you why they'll work so hard for you. Non-commissioned sales staff means the sales staff at Two Rivers Ford, they're not your typical car dealership salesman. They're not your typical car salesman. They are going to make their paycheck no matter whether they make a sale for you, to you, or not. That's the beauty of the non-pressurized experience that Two Rivers Ford provides. You can go and you can check them out in Mount Juliet, or you can shop online. Check out all of the new 2021 models that are rolling off the line at tworiversford.com. Mike Kamsis with that LG flip phone, says John Fisser. You guys are ripping on Mike for some reason. I guess I can't see how everybody... I'm on a new setup now. This is new, by the way. It's new and it's sticking around. I hope the graphic looks a little different, although it doesn't look much different. You can see more of me. We've structured things differently. We got you guys are much closer to my face. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll see, depending on the first person who tells me I'm looking older or looking tired. We will get to there. But anyway, Danny White over Philip Fulmer for one clear and obvious reason. Now, I'm sitting here on a scale of 1 to 10. I am willing to let Danny White prove to me that he's capable of conducting a competent head coaching search in the SEC at a program at a university like the University of Tennessee that is such a fishbowl. I think there's so few jobs that are like Tennessee in a way that there is just all eyes on you at all times, no matter whether you're good, and in fact, more so when you're bad. I like Danny White, and I like his approach, and it represents to me an obvious upgrade over Philip Fulmer. The only reason why I would give him a 2 out of 10 is just because I have seen this show with the Tennessee Volunteers before. I need more than a week worth of sample size to think that to let Danny White earn my trust, earn my confidence. And I understand why people are very, very excited about the hire. He has a lot of promise. You hear a lot of good things. The best thing that Danny White has going for him is a proven track record of competency. That's not something that has happened at the university for a long time. My 2 is not because I doubt Danny White. My 2 is because you need to show me more. I need to see more for me to be able to trust you. But what I will say is Danny White went from a 0 to a 2 as soon as he held his introductory press conference and over the course of the last week, because he has done the thing that Philip Fulmer simply was incapable of doing. He is running this program, running this athletic department in a way that is just so close to the vest that nobody knows what's going on with the University of Tennessee, and Philip Fulmer in that position made things messy, just as he did when he was a coach. He did the same as an athletic department administrator. He was messy. It was sloppy. It was loud. It was public. Danny White is not doing business that way. But without further ado, let's hear from the man himself.
Integrity is an enormous part of who I am, of the people that we hire. I want a head coach that I can trust unequivocally, and that I know that person is going to hire a staff full of high-character people. And that goes beyond just staying within the rules or following regulations, whether they be university, conference, NCAA. It's bigger than that. It's having the right moral compass that's going to rub off on our student athletes, be a role model for our student athletes, and make sure that we're developing them in every way possible that their parents would be proud of, that all of us would be proud of.
That's new Tennessee Volunteers Athletic Director Danny White at the podium in his introductory press conference, speaking there about integrity, speaking there about the ecosystem, the culture, God help us, the culture that he is looking to build at the University of Tennessee. And he has a tall task, right? He has to find a coach that's willing to come into a situation where we don't know the scale. They know the scale. They're going to let the coach know the scale of what he is walking into, but we don't know the magnitude of what the NCAA violations are and what effect they will have on the University of Tennessee. This man does things at his own pace, in his own way, and most importantly, he does it quietly. He's not loud. He's not messy. He's not Phil Fulmer. That's the biggest thing that I come back to and say, this is the right decision for an athletic director because he can only do so much in the short amount of time that he's been running the show, right? And the plane tracking is everywhere, and they're trying to block the plane flight tracking and all of these things. NORAD versus Vol Twitter, like it's an impossible task. But the fact that he's done it this well so far makes me more confident about Danny White, even as I've only seen a very, very little bit. I've seen how he has conducted his business to this point, and that is a good part of the growing trust process that Danny White is going to have to prove, not just to skeptical media members like me, but to you who have entrusted him with your program, your beloved Tennessee Volunteers. He has to prove it to you. That's the thing that Philip Fulmer came in here and didn't have to do. Everybody loves Philip Fulmer that is associated with the Tennessee Volunteers. Maybe it's less so after his tenure as an administrator. I don't know, right? Like, I understand why people feel strongly about him one way or the other. I also understand that there was nothing that Philip Fulmer coming in had to prove to Tennessee Volunteers fans that there was nothing he had to prove to you guys. He came in, greatest last, physical embodiment of Tennessee's football success, up on stage talking about the Vols are back. We're going to get a piece of everybody's ass before long, and la-di-da, happy-go-lucky up on Rocky Top in Knoxville, Tennessee. There was no proving ground for Philip Fulmer to come in as an athletic director. This is the biggest hindrance, I think, based on we need a Tennessee guy. We need somebody who loves the program the way that we love the program. And I don't discount that, right? Somebody has to believe in what it is that they're building. It just so happens that they hired, as Josh Booten points out, they hired Fulmer to save face because they pooped the bed. Should have never been hired. It was panicked. It was rushed. It was PR more than competency. And that's what's bit the University of Tennessee in the ass so many different times. It is about the optics, about trying to make it easier, make it more gentle for you guys, they think, to process. They don't trust you. Like that's the thing that I get time and time again. The way that previous iterations of the Volunteers Athletic Administration has handled things to appease the fan base in a way that they think tells me that they don't trust you guys. And that doesn't make sense to me because you, at your core, whether some people want Hugh Freeze and it's never going to happen, or some people think they're going to pluck Lane Kiffin right out of Ole Miss and nobody's the wiser and everything will go back to the way it was before Lane jumped ship for USC. Like there are some elements of fandom that are misguided, but the way that they handle their communications with their fan base makes me think that they don't, or at least previously, that they haven't acted like they trust you guys. And instead, Danny White says, I'm not trusting anybody. I'm handling this one on my own with my people, and you'll find out when I'm ready to tell you. That is a great quality. Even as a media member, I hate it because I want to find out. I want to know, right? It's my job. I'm a professional. One, I'm a professional second guesser. Two, I'm a what do you want to call it? Busybody. I'm nosy. Like that's just, that's part of my gig. That's why I do what I do. But it's a good job out of him to handle the way that he has so far. And if I was a day-to-day Tennessee Volunteers reporter instead of a Tennessee Titans reporter, I'd probably feel differently because I want the information. But this is the correct way to handle this particular job, this particular hire. And if he gets the right guy, it's going to benefit the University of Tennessee for years and years to come if they can make it through the NCAA violations that we do not yet know the scale of. Let's talk about potential guys because the guy on your graphic, ironically enough, has already been ruled out. What we will talk about is I want you to rank these 4 coaches who are being rumored, who are being discussed in the race to replace Jeremy Pruitt. Tony Elliott, Gus Malzahn, Matt Campbell, Lane Kiffin. Rank those 1 to 4 or 4 to 1, however you want to do it. We had PJ Fleck on the graphic, but literally as we were getting ready to pop on live, PJ Fleck got ruled out for the University of Tennessee, but it still stands to serve. Maybe some of you wanted PJ Fleck. I happen to think that there's a lot of Butch Jones in him in a way that is not an indictment of PJ Fleck. It's just I don't think it's the right job for a guy like that. Top 4 options: Tony Elliott, Gus Malzahn, Matt Campbell, Lane Kiffin. Rank them 1 to 4. We'll talk about it together in the comments on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, Twitch TV. We invite your participation right after I tell you about our friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. The website that you go to is GaryAshton.com. They will hook it up for you just as they hook it up for me, the Nashville Predators, the Tennessee Titans, because they're the official real estate agent, not just of your favorite sports streaming show, but your favorite professional sports teams here in Middle Tennessee. They are in Middle Tennessee. They care about Middle Tennessee. Not only will they help you find your dream address without the stress, as I did, they'll help you sell your home for more if you trust the Ashton team at GaryAshton.com. How would you rank the 4 coaches that I have just laid out for you as prospective replacements for Jeremy Pruitt? You got Tony Elliott, the offensive coordinator of Clemson, Gus Malzahn, who was run out of Auburn, Matt Campbell there at Iowa State, and Lane Kiffin, your one lost love, who now dominates offense down in Oxford, Mississippi. Tyree says Lane Kiffin is dead last. Brandon Schutt. And now that I have the ability to throw your guys' comments up there, you can read them right there. Brandon Schutt 13 says Kiffin, Gus, Campbell, Elliott. That is where he would go. Vol Rising, Campbell, Kiffin, Malzahn, and who? I said Campbell, Kiffin, Malzahn, and Tony Elliott, who is the offensive coordinator of Clemson, who actually got an interview to be the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. So he's getting interest, college and pro. Where would you rank these gentlemen? Thoughts on Gary Patterson, passed in 08 for Kiffin, says Clubby D 5910. I mean, Gary Patterson, TCU is a very, very different job. Campbell is out, isn't he? Campbell has already turned us down, Buck. Well, listen, this is a dream scenario. Like I think that more likely you're going to end up with, like, I don't think you were going to get Matt Campbell. But everybody would want Matt Campbell, right? What Matt Campbell wants is Notre Dame or Ohio State. Like we are talking about people who could be hired to be the next head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers. I understand that he's already turned him down. I understand that Gus Malzahn probably isn't going to go to work at a place where Kevin Steele, who just tried to put together a coup to out Gus Malzahn at Auburn, unsuccessful. Well, I mean, to a degree successfully, but he ended up leaving and coming to Tennessee. So there are some of these that are more realistic than others. I'm talking about your dream candidate, 1 through 4. Where would you rank them for the replacement for Jeremy Pruitt? Campbell, as we talked about, has already turned us down. Josh says, we don't need Gus. Gus would look so handsome in an orange sweater, says Evan C. White. Mike says 1A Kiffin, 1B Malzahn, 3 Campbell, but like I just said, re-upped at Iowa State. 4 Elliott, way down. Tom Herman is number 2, says Evan C. White. So Tom Herman's an interesting case study because I don't think he expected to be out at Texas, and I don't think most people expected him to be out at Texas. Chris Peterson is a great fit, says Craig. Yeah, but you're never going to get Chris Peterson. Like Chris Peterson is more far-flung than at this point Matt Campbell is. The way that I look at it is even though he is opting to stay at Iowa State until his 2 dream jobs come open, which is crazy to me because I think it's so hard. It's why Matt Campbell is so impressive. It's so hard to win at a place like Iowa State that if you get the opportunity at one of these, cream of the crop Power 5 jobs, and yes, even though Tennessee is not a great circumstance, it is a cream of the crop Power 5 job. There's no question about it. But when I look at Matt Campbell, I would start with him, number 1. I would say Tony Elliott, number 2. I would say Lane Kiffin, number 3. And I would say Gus Malzahn, 4. Actually, I think I just changed up my list in the way. So Matt Campbell, Gus Malzahn, Tony Elliott, Lane Kiffin. Like Lane, I love him, but he's going to be 4th because he's not leaving Ole Miss. And that's just going to how it goes. But the guy that you're looking for, there's not too many Matt Campbells out there, but God bless what I love him.
What would you say are the changes that have been made to allow you to have these back-to-back winning seasons?
I think the biggest thing here is that we had to believe. And, I think it took year 1 to understand how to believe that we can win here. And the only way that's going to happen is trust. And trust is really special in college football because it's got to go player to player, player to coach to coach, and back to coach to player. And that's really resonated in our program over the last 3 years. And then the humility to stick to that process, even when some success would occur, that's what's made us really special. And some great leaders along the way in our locker room have taken hold of that and led us.
So that's Matt Campbell. When crowds were allowed at College Game Day and Maria Taylor was allowed to interview people closer than 6 feet apart. It's been a while, right? That looks like a totally foreign thing. But I would start with Matt Campbell first because he's the dream candidate. He's the one that you're not going to get. He's the one that everybody wants a piece of, and he's the one that makes the most sense. But it only makes sense if he's willing to come. And unfortunately, Matt Campbell has already turned down the University of Tennessee to opt to stay at Iowa State, which is an incredible decision to me. Trevor Lawrence and crew made Elliott Kiffin putting up numbers with no name, says Fred K. Schultz. Yeah, but he's just not going to leave. Alvin Cotton Chesney says, what happened to James Franklin? James Franklin did I miss something? Did James Franklin get fired at Penn State? Did I miss that happening? I think James Franklin still has a job. Like he's not going to leave Penn State to go to Tennessee, is he? I don't think so. And plus, it's like weirdly I mean, it's not weirdly because he was the coach of Vanderbilt, but it was like super contentious between James Franklin and Tennessee. One, actually, you know what? No, flat out no, regardless of what his employment situation is, because James Franklin, you cannot tell me. Here's the biggest thing for James Franklin. You cannot preach to me integrity. You cannot preach to me moral compass not hire Greg Schiano, but go and turn around and hire James Franklin, who had a much, much closer tie to very, very seedy, a seedy situation with the way that the Vanderbilt sexual assault with the players played out under him, and how he kind of just all but washed his hands. Remember why he left Vandy, says Vol for life? That's what I'm saying. Like the moral issues that were drummed up, rightly or wrongly, because of Greg Schiano, James Franklin was much, 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 much closer to a situation than Greg Schiano was. So you cannot tell me these are the reasons why you did not hire Greg Schiano and then turn around and hire James Franklin. Now, I think James Franklin's a good coach, but I just think that ultimately, like, that's just, and maybe you don't care about hypocrisy in this particular situation. Maybe you just want the best guy for the job. But the hypocrisy of that would really, really kind of fly in the face of everything that caused the first great coaching search scandal at Tennessee, which was that Vols fans didn't want Greg Schiano. And that was a big reason that was cited. His ties to Joe Paterno, Jerry Sandusky, and all of the awful things that went on at Penn State. Napier doesn't want to do it. Camden Jeans is asking about Billy Napier. Yeah, I've seen a lot that he would prefer to remain at Louisiana. James Franklin isn't on the list. The guy that reports for 24/7 Sports just kind of threw that out there. I don't think it'll be a hire that we weren't expecting, though. I seriously doubt we will get a proven head coach like they stated, says Tyree. I mean, that's the problem, right? Like, the problem is any coach that walks into this job is going to be faced with legitimate NCAA sanctions, with massive roster attrition. Like, everybody's making announcements today, Vol players saying, I am not leaving the University of Tennessee. Like, that's something that has to be stated. Like, it's like the anti-recruitment. It's like, yeah, I'm choosing to stay here willingly, even though everything around me looks like a shit show. You know, this is the new trend for Vols players on Twitter. The next head coach of this program is going to walk into a total cluster. Guessing Danny W hires someone that none of us have mentioned, says John Visser, and that's kind of where the curiosity in this all is, right? Because there's so many different candidates that are being named as having associations or being potential candidates for the University of Tennessee. But the biggest issue last time we all went through one of these was that there were so many different things that popped up from coaches like Mike Gundy, who asked for a bunch of money. Essentially, Tennessee pleaded with Mike Gundy to take their offer. Mike Gundy stood him up for an outrageous amount of money and got a fat raise from Oklahoma State out of it as a result. They were turned down by multiple coaches. They were embarrassed on a national scale. Charles Hardaway, Bill O'Brien is the offensive coordinator for the University of Alabama. It's not happening. And PJ Fleck's already been out. Charles, you just said that you're late to the show, and now you're lobbing and things like we haven't already talked about this. Come on. Like, I don't know. If you join the show late, can you not go back and look at comments, or are you just being lazy? Like, what are we doing here, Charles? Be better. They got to hire a coach and allow them they have to hire, I think is what Todd Chesser is trying to say. I'll forgive your grammar. They got to hire a coach and allow them at a minimum 5 years to get this program turned around, and especially because of what they're facing from the NCAA. Listen, you guys determine what kind of leash you're giving the next guy, right? Are you prepared for a 5-year reboot? Maybe it's necessitated because of the sanctions that are coming down. Producer Reed says head ball coach comes out of retirement to go to the Vols. Now, producer Reed, honestly, you should be demoted back to intern Reed for that. What I'm blanking on. Steve Spurrier. Steve Spurrier is not going to coach the University of Tennessee. Out of here with that, producer Reed. And I trust you to help me. This is bad content that you're producing. Bad job out of you, Reed. You had such a good pre-show meeting, and now you're in here in the comment section pooping yourself. Stop it. Left field option Joe Brady, says Eddie the Don. I mean, there's all kinds of left field options. We are not allowed to say negative things on social media. It's phone a friend time, says TVB. Just a bunch of numbers after it. Danny White has a track record of hiring great head coaches. Trust the process, says Rick Shuffler. Well, I mean, you have no choice, right? That's kind of the thing that I leave you guys with is before we move on to the Vol play and watch, because that was all over social media today. You don't have to phone a friend for that. You have to trust the process. You have no choice but to trust the process. It is a big issue that you have no other options but to trust the process. C. Smith is asking, is Les Miles still at Kansas? Yeah, and leave him there. Les Miles is not a good coach. Stop that. God. This is why it has to end. I was actually texting, and actually I just got a text from him. I was texting with my buddy Ryan Hurd, who's a singer-songwriter, musician, and also the husband of Maren Morris. And Ryan and I were talking about this because we're fascinated by Vol Twitter and just all of the things that result in and the reaction to the hiring of Danny White and all the celebrating that was done as a result. And at the end of the day, you still have to trust the process, and you have nowhere to go but there. He said in the interview he never picks the guys on the hot list. I think Deion Sanders is Patrick. It is so rare that I stop mid-comment because I don't have the time to proofread things. But I'm going to leave this comment up on the screen before we move on to our Vol Watch topic. It is so rare, Patrick, that I stop mid-comment because of the level of stupidity that said commenter has brought to the chat. Now, Patrick, maybe you're new to the show. Maybe we haven't always been on YouTube. We are now on YouTube on a nightly basis. Maybe you are unfamiliar with me, our audience, and the way that we do business here. But listen to me very close. When you bring something to the chat, you are subjecting yourself to potentially public humiliation. Now, I don't want to discourage anybody from chatting, but when you come in here and you could have said honestly, Patrick, you could have said any other name to me but Deion Sanders in the chat, and I probably would have accepted it and said, maybe that's a possibility. I would have said, literally, I'm telling you, actually, there's two names that I would have stopped: Greg Schiano or Deion Sanders. Patrick, what are we doing out here? In what world do you think that Deion Sanders, who, by the way, currently has a college head coaching job and has made it a very, very big part of his campaign that he wants to coach at a historically black college for all of the implications and the lending of strength from a powerful African-American athlete to a historically black college, you're saying that this man is a dark horse candidate for the University of Tennessee. In what world? One, if Danny White hires Deion Sanders, fire everybody. Light the thing on fire. Honestly, start a new university, because that is such a I don't even, Patrick, it's not that I'm calling you stupid. It's just that you are saying something that makes you appear to the rest of us very, very unintelligent or uninformed about what it is that you have just said. Now, I'm willing to forgive you, Patrick, because maybe this is your first time watching this particular show. But I can't even get myself to allow forgiveness in this particular instance. And I think I've already sacrificed grace. So what I will say to you, Patrick, is no, that is not going to happen. But very, very good job out of you, Patrick, because so rare is it that a comment, when I am Ron Burgundying all manners of comments, because we got 300 plus people in here live and 1,000 more, 5,000 more people are going to watch this on replay. Congratulations to you, Patrick. You are the first commenter in nearly 2 years of me doing this streaming show to make me stop dead in my tracks because a comment is so outrageous. Bravo, sir. You, I don't even know what award we can give out, but I am so bewildered by everything that just went down. Buck is stammering. That's a first, as Mike. I mean, honestly, like I'm shook. I'm straight up shook. But anyway, let's move on to something else that shakes things up, shakes the internet up. Vol Watch and the University of Tennessee and the plane that everybody has been trying desperately to track. I want to know from you guys in the comments on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and even you, Patrick, on YouTube. I want your comments And if they're bad, we just got to let people know, and you got to do better. You got to watch the tape and improve. But I want to know what would it take for you to be the Vols full-time flight tracker? Let me know on Facebook Live. Let me know on Periscope. Let me know on YouTube and Twitch TV. What would it take? How much money? What would you want? What would it take for you to be the Vols full-time flight tracker? Give your comment on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. We will discuss it together right after I remind you about our friends at Mac Mechanical, where you go for satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. Those are the people that you trust at Brymac.com. Brymac Mechanical out in Clarksville, their main location. They have 3 total that will service Middle Tennessee and parts of Kentucky. BRYMAK, Brymac.com. What would it take for you to be the official tracker of the Vols private jet? Let me know on Facebook Live and on Periscope. Brian Bowman on Facebook says season tickets. Free drinks, says Chris Turtle Clark. Watch it spin, and where will it go, says Puka. $100 and a Taco Bell bean burrito, says TM Conyer. So TM Conyer is a cheap date. Vol Twitter could hunt down alien life if it was the link to this coaching search, says Josh. I did see Chad Withrow tweet out something to that effect, and I did find that quite funny. Private Suite is all Kevin Griffith. See, Kevin, you're selling yourself too low, because for me, there's honestly not enough money in the world. There is not enough money in the world for me to spend hours upon hours, days upon days. I don't care how many different benefits the University of Tennessee tried to offer me to track this godforsaken airplane when it's in Charlotte, or it's in Arkansas, or it's in God knows where, and you're trying to figure out why I can see a blocked flight even though the flight says that it's blocked. You are more proficient as a Twitter entity, as an internet entity, than the Department of Defense when it comes to tracking air traffic. You guys are spectacular. I commend you. Truly, I do. But there is not enough money in the world for me to spend my days tracking the University of Tennessee's private jet. It's in Atlanta right now, says Josh. I mean, God, again, it continues. It literally never stops. Frank Maples on YouTube says you would only have to track it for a couple weeks every 3 years. That's a good point. It wouldn't be a full-time job. Maybe you get full-time pay out of it for how miserable your life is during those 3 weeks, those couple of weeks every 3 years. Do you think the Vols should hire just Jeff Fisher? Just got here, Matt. Am I being punked? Am I being are you being serious? Am I being trolled? I don't know if Matt is just trying to upset me. I don't know if Matt is trying to upset you. Jeff Fisher, what? What are we talking about? Just because Jeff Fisher is on the radio saying that he would be interested in potentially, let's not do this. Let's just not. Matt, you're late. It's okay. I understand. I will not be upset with you the way that I was upset with Patrick, because what Patrick said was inherently dumber. But that is also dumb. And that's the A to Z Sports Primetime Show on a Monday night. We hope that we provided you some entertainment and some information. We thank you, as always, for your participation. It is greatly appreciated here on the Primetime Show. If you're new to the show, we do this thing every Sunday to Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Time, or right thereabouts. Support the people that support this show. That's Two Rivers Ford, Tennessee Heating and Cooling, Brymac Mechanical, and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Great local businesses here in Middle Tennessee that are not tired of providing you great service, just as they do for me. By the way, there's going to be a ton of content coming out. Cousin Sal from the Bill Simmons podcast and Jimmy Kimmel, betting degenerate extraordinaire. He's on tomorrow's 615 Sessions podcast. We're going to talk Super Bowl prop bets. He wrote a book all about literally mortgaging his house one time, or putting betting his house, his mortgage, and potentially his marriage on tomorrow's 615 Sessions podcast. That will be greatly enjoyable for you. So subscribe, rate, and review wherever it is that you get the podcast. I'm going to be writing all sorts of Titans content for the website. You know, Zach Reagan has you covered on the Vols side as we continue to track these things down. We are going to continue to produce this great content for you because it's early in the week. The coaching search is really just getting started. But I'll tell you what, we're not tired yet. There is going to be so much celebration. People are going to be naked in the streets screaming Rocky Top from the top of their lungs, and they will do it with smiles on their faces as soon as there's a new head coach, because there won't be games played yet, and you won't have time to be disappointed. And you'll do it with a smile on your face because you're not tired yet. I will see you guys tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Austin and Zach have you covered in the morning. Enjoy the rest of your evening. But damn sure you know that just because the show is over, I'm not tired yet.